As we enter the final few days of October, Caleb Greiner looks ahead with excitement, eager to see if his prediction on Hog Jr.'s rut range comes true. Switching gears, Caleb has traded in the bow for the camera, heading to southern Iowa where he and Lee Abraham plan to hunt the next few days. Looking back on past memories, it's easy to see why late October is one of Lee's favorite time frames to bow hunt. On the morning of October 29th, Lee heads to a stand location overlooking a large field. That same morning, 128 miles to the northeast in eastern Iowa, Mike Reed is also on stand, making his next move on the tight frame 6x5 known as Kelsey.
Well, it's Saturday, October 29th. Got turkeys gobbling on the ridge. We're back down at the river bottom farm in this pond set on the small peninsula. We're in here after Kelsey. We got a light southeast wind blowing back to the river here. It's nice and crisp and cold this morning, low 30s. We've got one doe that's just worked its way into the peninsula. It feels awesome this morning, so I'm hoping it can happen this morning. This is where we encountered him a couple days ago. The wind's not really been cooperating with us the last couple days. I stayed out of here yesterday afternoon. He's still been really active on the camera, so with any luck this morning, he'll work his way back in here. Excited for the sit. They're heading towards the river, towards the grass, like where we set up yesterday. It drops off over there, so it's gonna be hard. It's about 11 o'clock now, and we're gonna wrap it up. Overall, it was a really nice sit. Ended up seeing 8 or 9 different bucks. The oldest was a buck we call Ronnie. We didn't get that good of footage of him. He was on the other side of the peninsula. Started chasing some does around. We filmed him last year a couple times. He's basically a wide, short tine 10, real big bodied. I think he's a 5-year-old this year. It's nice to see mature bucks on their feet. The wind was more light and variable this morning. I was thinking the thermals would help us, but we did have a couple times when instead of blowing southeast, it was blowing northwest. So hopefully that'll straighten out this afternoon. I'd like to move over to the south plot tonight for a sit, but I'm gonna have to make sure the wind is right. Anyway, we're gonna get packed up and we'll see you guys this afternoon.
Mike's morning produces great deer activity, seeing consistent action. Back in southern Iowa, Owen Reigler is gearing up for his afternoon hunt, releasing a few arrows before heading to the field.
I think I'm ready to go tonight. We're going after a Wolverine, so we're gonna go shower up and get after him. All right, guys, we're back at the Hornet's Nest after that Wolverine buck. The last place we filmed him in the last couple of years was right here. I think it was like November 8th or something like that. He doesn't frequent this as much as to the east of here, but when you get to this time of year, it's not like crazy unusual to catch him down here. So the other good thing is we do have a second shooter in this area. Most of these spots have just got one buck I'm after, which I enjoy that challenge anyway, but this one also has that wraparound beam 6-year-old buck we filmed just a couple days ago. So if he happened to step out, he would be on the list also. Our green source, our clover here is kind of so-so. It's all of our stuff is pretty well dried up. We just haven't caught any rain to speak of. It just finally rained like 2 days or 3 days ago, but fingers crossed we see Wolverine. I'd love to see that deer. Let's go.
While Owen settles in waiting for the first deer activity of the evening, back in eastern Iowa, Mike Reed and Rye Ludwig head to the woods, both with a bow in hand.
Well, we've made the move for the afternoon hunt. First sit of the year on the south plot. It's not much of a plot. We drought it out pretty bad here this year, and this was one of the plots that we really struggled to get growing. But there's a few brassicas in it. And this camera over this scrape post has actually been pretty active, so the does I like to stop in this little staging plot before heading out to the cut corn. We've moved essentially to the east side of the farm. With these east winds, we've been hunting the west side. And I've been wanting to get in here because Kelsey's been active in this area. We have a camera about 200 yards away on the next field over. There's a little farm road that connects these two fields. And he's been there the last 3 days. We just haven't had a good enough wind to get in here. And even tonight, it's a little bit marginal. If it stays southeast, if we have enough south in it, we'll be okay. But if it wants to blow east, it ends up cutting off one of the thickets that deer come out of. So not the greatest conditions, but it is October 29th, and you never know. There's also a few bucks that have been down here that are on Rye's hit list, so Rye's got his bow in hand as well. Got a few hours to go. We're gonna sit back and enjoy the afternoon. Those two are back there.
With deer beginning to fill the failed turnip plot, tension begins to build for Mike and Rye. Back in southern Iowa, Lee Abraham is continuing to stick out his long-range sit.
Hi guys, day 3. It is hot. 67 in the truck before we parked. It was pretty stagnant all day. This morning something was relatively slow. In the same spot, just trying to get eyes on one of those 2 bucks. I was telling Caleb we were trying to decide where to go, and we got other places to hunt on the farm, but there's just nothing that is intriguing as these 2 bucks as far as the character they have and the size of them. Plus, this farm is one of those funnel farms. We just don't know when they're going to be back, if ever. So the activity's been very subdued. I talked to the guys, talked to Owen, ran about Caleb, and these temperatures, are definitely suppressing the activity, but again, they're not even acting like they're that frisky.
end of the day, we decided that it can trigger at any time. But again, the does we're seeing, they're still with their phones, they're still locked up with their doe groups. So not quite there, but waiting for that cap to bust open. So.
As Lee and Caleb tuck in, scanning for Big O, back in the tight quarters of Mike and Rye's green plot, the deer are continuing to move.
She heard that grunt just now. Yeah, it's running. Another buck coming. I think it's Ronnie. He's wide. His right brow's long and like curves over. Comes down. Well, I certainly really didn't expect to be killing a deer tonight. We were in here after Kelsey, and we saw Ronnie, I don't know, maybe a half hour ago down the lane making a scrape, and I mean, it was almost at the exact same time. Mike and I saw him in the camera, and Mike saw him in the corner. You're like, that's Ronnie. And I
I mean, it took me about 2 seconds to make up my mind if I want to shoot him or not. Mike has been so kind, just give me all these targets to choose from. We had that great encounter with daggers the other morning where I didn't bring my bow to the tree, and it's crazy that I even get to experience this. Like, we're sitting here in Iowa right now. It's one of the most beautiful sunsets you can imagine, and I've got my first Iowa boat buck on the ground. We kind of held off of the initial reaction. He hunched up and went over the corner and was standing there for a minute. We were both glassing him and filming him, and you could see the shot. It was a little low. He was quartering to me, and all in all, he's expired over there laying on the ground. I want to go look at him. Like, I'm pretty excited. Mike?
First Iowa bow buck, man. Congratulations.
Nice work.
After seeing the buck bed down just off the plot with no movement, Rye and Mike relived the moment in the tree, enjoying the beautiful sunset. Back in southern Iowa, Lee Abraham's hunt is finally picking up steam.
That's a nice buck. He's on it, though. I don't know if he can hear.
The guys are wrapping up here. The last bit of shooting light. It was relatively slow until about an hour before dark. We caught some movement and saw horns in the CRP to our west, and there was that big old buck, the biggest buck on the farm. He was pushing the doe or dogging her pretty good, kind of pushing her back into that CRP as opposed to coming back into these beans below us. We got some footage of him. We're going to blow it up, see what we can see, make sure that was him. It was kind of a long distance footage, but he got into this bean field on the neighbor. I did try to rattle once I saw him in that field by himself. I think maybe that doe wasn't hot. He was just trying to push her. Maybe she wasn't hot because he was by himself in that field. So we gave a long call sequence and tried to get his attention. It's just too far, and I didn't hear us. So he got more interest over there either way. Mission accomplished somewhat, and let's see if we can finish it out.
As Lee watches the southern Iowa giant determining what his next move is, Owen Reigler is experiencing his own pre-rut action.
Yeah, that's probably why that scrape's so dug out over there. Every day he's like that rubbing post. Coming into view. You see it okay? Oh, there he is. Well, I was just trying to close it out here. And we got a little more activity, just a little flurry there. Like 2 more does. Well, one's a button buck, but button buck and a doe popped out. And that buck, he started kind of working them around, grunting and carrying on. So we got a little more activity, but still a pretty slow hunt. All in all, you know, I'm not scared of a whole lot of stuff walking in the dark. You know, coyotes, bobcats, none of that stuff bothers me, but I did get a trail picture the other day of something that might make it a little more challenging walking out in the dark, or a little more spooky anyway. Check out the big cat we got a picture of. That thing is awesome. It's the first time I've ever got a picture of a mountain lion. Wish us luck getting out of here.
While Owen navigates the shadows with the big cat in the back of his mind, Back in eastern Iowa, Rye Ludwig is taking up the blood trail on his first bow buck in Iowa.
First Iowa bow buck. Pretty exciting, man, isn't it? There's blood. All right, we may need to reevaluate this.
Whoa, hold on.
Am I crazy?
That's where he was laying down. I see the imprint of the body.
I mean, it's not dried up at all. We got the arrow, and the arrow looked pretty good, and we started tracking down. We didn't follow the blood trail because we saw where the deer bedded up, and we assumed he expired. His head was on the ground. Came over expecting to find the body, and we found 2 beds, both with blood in them. Heavy blood by the first bed, and the blood trail keeps going. The blood's still wet, so we're gonna kind of back out here for a little bit, come back. I don't think he went far. Mike and I were talking. There's a lot of blood. The blood looks good, so we're trying to give him a little more time, and hopefully we'll walk up on him here shortly.
Reviewing the footage closer, the guys determined that the shot's entrance hole paired with the shot angle resulted in a lower hit than originally thought, going from a double lung shot to a single lung and liver, 2 very different recovery times. Fast forward to the 6-hour mark and the guys returned to the river farm at midnight, hoping to find the buck. Unfortunately, following the blood trail to the 150-yard mark reveals another round of clustered beds with no buck in them. Deciding to back out, playing it safe, a restless night follows. The following morning, Rye and Mike return for a 3rd attempt.
All right, we're back out here at the farm. Give you guys a little recap. Last night, obviously, we had a pretty good hunt on that food plot. Rye made a shot at that buck we called Ronnie. You know, you could tell by the way he was acting that the shot was a little back and a little low, and we actually could see the entrance, we could see the exit when he turned, but the blood was just pouring out of him. And we thought, when he laid down, we watched him for a while, probably 10 minutes, he never picked his head back up. We couldn't appreciate him breathing at all. And we had like probably 30 minutes left of daylight whenever he shot the buck. But then we got down and we're taking shots and doing interviews and recovering the arrow, all expecting the buck to be bedded at the edge of the food plot, maybe a little overconfident.
Yeah.
Walked over and he wasn't there. And you know, here we are, it's the next morning, got up at daybreak and we're out here and all right, let's go take a look at your first Iowa bow buck.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Good Lord. Oh, these aren't built like Maryland deer. Oh man. Oh, that thing's a tank, man. Oh, what a deer. Well, this is Ronnie. Ronnie is my first Iowa bow buck. Great, huge body, mature deer. Could not be happier to be behind this deer. The amount of character just alone on his antlers. He's got so much burrs down around the bases, the curled bow tine. He's an awesome deer. Mike and I had an encounter in the South Platte last year with this deer. He came into about 10 yards behind us, and it was awesome. I was still new to the Iowa area. We were pursuing chubs, having a whole bunch of encounters, and this deer came behind us, and I'm like, man, he's just got all that character around the bottom. He's a great looking deer. We've been seeing Ronnie on multiple cameras around this area over the past, I don't know, 2 weeks or so. He just kind of moved into the farm, has been really active. And we knew there was a chance we'd see him, and sure enough, we saw him working a scrape off in the distance down the lane, and the little 9-point came and pushed a doe over just in front of the stand, and old Ronnie couldn't stand it. He came over, gave him a little snort wheeze, and 22 yards.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We've been going back and forth about the shot, and I mean, I've taken a lot of deer over the years and experienced lots of different types of recoveries, and like this shot, you know, we can judge based on his reaction at the edge of the plot, the fact that he stood there and didn't go down right away, that it was a little bit back or a little bit low, not perfect. And but we could see the blood pouring out of him, and then he laid down, put his head down. Like I said earlier, I mean, we just thought he expired right there. And that, we let our guard down. I mean, I think a lot of times, if you make a shot you think is back, you would slip out of the woods and come back a few hours later and find him right there laying there. But as we're looking at the shot, I mean, the entry is really, it's not bad, it's mid-body.
and it's just right behind the leg, which is where you typically want to put it. I mean, you can make some arguments on different places to put it when they're quartering to you slightly, but you know, the leg on our side was a little bit back, so that when you're hugging the leg, obviously that arrow impacted a little bit farther back. But then also the shot angle, we're 35 feet up and the deer's pretty close, and you need to enter a little bit high to get a good exit, and so enter mid body and it kind of come out the bottom of him. So I think it was basically the back of this left lung and then the liver, and then it's one of the reasons I think he lived as long as he did. I mean, he was hurt pretty bad, obviously he wouldn't stand up, but we're very happy and fortunate, obviously, to walk up and find him where he was, and no coyotes got to him, all this kind of stuff. The meat is still going to be fine and all that, but lessons learned. I mean, I think we could have probably proceeded with a little more caution last night, and I do think we made good efforts, obviously, coming in, trying to get him as leaving him lay for a reasonable amount of time, but
I agree.
The shot placement and then maybe us messing around a little bit at the base of the tree, celebrating a little prematurely. Anyway, every time we shoot a deer and we have an experience like this, we try to think about what could be done differently, what lessons could be learned for the viewers and for ourselves. And you know, obviously the deer, it's nice that we recovered him, big mature buck, and congrats on your first Iowa bow buck.
I've said it about 16 times. I'll say it 16 more before the day's over, but thank you, man.
Yeah,
this is pretty
you're welcome,
awesome,
buddy.
We're back at the Hornet's Nest after that Wolverine buck. The last place we filmed him in the last couple of years was right here. I think it was like November 8th or something like that.
First sit of the year on the South Plot, and I've been wanting to get in here because Kelsey's been active in this area. We have a camera about 200 yards away, and he's been there the last 3 days.
Ronnie is my first Iowa bow buck. Great, huge body, mature deer. I've said it about 16 times. I'll say it 16 more before the day's over, but thank you, man.
Yeah,
this is pretty
you're welcome,
awesome.
buddy.
What more could a bow hunter ask for than what October 30th delivered for our team? Start to finish, the hardwoods painted a backdrop worthy of the pre-rut action that unfolded before our stands. Lee Abraham laid eyes on the biggest buck anyone has seen this season, and though it was distant, the long-range visibility accomplished its goal, and now Lee must make his next move. Caleb Griner's hopeful prediction that Hogg Jr. would return to the new permission farm appears to have come true, evident by a series of cutty-back photos. With a few days remaining in Lee's vacation, Caleb too begins to scheme his newest strategy. Owen Reigler continues to put himself in great spots, waiting for the ghostly figure of Wolverine to materialize, and with the year anniversary of his last encounter approaching, Owen's outlook is hopeful. And despite a roller coaster ride full of highs and lows, nobody leaves the Iowa woods behind with a greater smile on their faces than Mike Reed and Rye Ludwig. Another great story and a growing tale for the duo focuses shift right back to deciphering the puzzle called Kelsey. With only 2 days remaining in the month that seems to have lasted forever, bow hunters everywhere are primed for the adventure ahead. Bucks are now ramping up the search, relocating to known doe bedding areas, and during the rut, anything can happen. It's finally almost here, and with north winds hovering on the horizon snapping the heat wave, we revamp our focus ready to seize the opportunity. We can only expect it to get better from here, and in just 2 days, we will once again be chasing November.